In this video, I'm going to explain to you how to add other costs in an estimate for structured cabling specifically. Now, the recap has a header at the top here. I won't explain how to edit the header. That should have already been explained to you, but you would always go in here and massage these numbers. Again, I won't cover that in this video, but what I am going to cover in this video again is how to add other expenses or other costs. Now, I want to point something out to you. When you start out in the recap here, when you enter, or I should say when you navigate here the first time, when you see an underlined number in the total column, that means it's a link that you can open up. In this example, where I'm pointing right now, this underlined 0, see, the title of it or description is Other Material Cost. Now here's what I want to show you first. Get right into it here. I want to show you how to enter the material cost that you got quoted for cable and closet. Okay, so I click on this underlined 0. It opens up a pop-up. Okay, this pop-up then has different items described down the left-hand side. And so what you do is you input the dollar amount of quotes that you got from your wholesale vendor. In this example, let's say I got horizontal cabling quote for my cable, and I'm going to put a hypothetical number in here. So I'm going to click in here and I'm going to put $1,250. Okay, now just so you know, don't ever put a comma in Red Rhino. Red Rhino will populate commas whenever it needs to. It doesn't like them, it'll blow up in your face, so don't put them in there, okay? So the other thing I wanted to show you is that you can actually change the description of the items on the left-hand side. They have a list of items here, but at this point you can always change that description. And so you would just highlight it, change it, and then type in the amount that you want. Now, in this example, I'm also going to plug in some numbers for closet. Let's say that I got some quoted materials for closet. I'm going to make it $2,500. Again, you get the number from your wholesale vendor for those items, and you save it. Now, just to continue the thought here, see the program has a category for patch cords, okay, or phone systems, or riser backbone. Now again, you just input the dollar amount of the quotation that you got. Now next you come up here and you click Save and Close. This is very important. If you happen to just close this window without saving it, guess what? It doesn't save anything for you. Okay, so always click Save and Close. So I'm going to do that right now. And when I do, it's going to save these numbers onto the recap. Okay, there, it's saved. And I'm going to scroll down here just a little bit. Actually, I don't need to, so I take that back. Notice how now in the category quoted materials including tax, it shows a total $4,041. Okay, so it totals it up for you real quick here. Again, this is how Red Rhino works very fast for you. When you input things, it automatically calculates that in with the totals. Okay, now just so you know, that again the category, or I should say the description name over here says quoted material including tax. So when you plugged this number in, just so you know, whatever you have your taxes set here for, in other words, what percent, the program adds that percent of tax to the number that you input there. And again, it's displaying the quoted materials that you plugged in, including tax. So it piled taxes on top of that, okay? Now, to continue my thought in Red Rhino, as you input, or let me say it this way, as you were inputting materials into Red Rhino, it captured the labor. So it brings forward a total labor that you have in your estimate. Now I went and plugged a bunch of materials into this estimate from structured cabling assemblies, and this is what, again, it's showing 712.4 hours. Again, over here to the left, the description is crew labor hours. Guys, when you get familiar with this recap and are able to walk through and use it quickly, it's a very, very powerful tool. It does all the calculations for you in your estimate. This is a complete summary of your estimate. It shows you everything. Now, again, I show this in other videos, but I'm going to scroll down real slow. As you make changes in this, it's changing the total price here. And eventually this total price, shown down here, will populate to your proposal. Okay, so as you make changes, Rhino does all the calculations here, comes up with a bottom line, and then eventually you can populate that to the proposal. It's sort of an automatic feature. Okay, and there's more on that later when I describe how to create and work with proposals. Now, one more thing I want to cover in this video. I'm going to scroll back up to the top. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. About halfway down to the list it says expenses. So I'm going to cover both of these just real quick, expenses and subcontracts. So when I go over here and click on the underlined 0 in the total column for expenses, there are several expenses listed in here for structured cabling. They're pre-populated. Now this works pretty much like it did with material quoted materials. Now if you look down this list here, if you need any of these items, you just plug in what your expenses are for them. Like for instance, if you had to rent a fusion splicer or buy one and put it in this job, you would type in the dollar amount for that. Gas detection sniffer, if you have people working in manholes or underground. Generator rental, generator test, okay, that's off subject for what we're talking about. But my point is look here, it says man lift. If you have to rent scissors lift or man lifts for this project, you would type numbers in here to capture those expenses. Now I'm just going to click in here and I'm going to type in $500. Say I've calculated that my cost for scissors lift on this job or man lift is $500. And again, once again, I save and close. And something you want to get used to doing too, guys, after you input anything into Rhino anytime in this recap, you always want to go back and double check the number. Okay? So I covered the quoted materials in the recap, and I covered how to input expenses. And one more thing here, let me just go over to the right where it says subcontracts. I'm going to click on the underlined 0. Now I won't input anything in here, but I just want to explain to you that if you guys have to pay a subcontractor to do some work for you, then you would go into here, you would locate what that expense was. Maybe you're required to provide a security system in your pricing, and you don't do security work. So you'd hire a subcontractor, or rather, you get a subcontractor to give you pricing for that. You type it in here, you'd save and close, okay? So that's what I wanted to explain to you specifically about the recap here, how you add other expense or other costs.